I've been having problems with water flow or pressure for quite some time, and the town replaced water mains last summer and stirred up a lot of sediment when they did that. But ever since then, I've had pretty poor flow or pressure or something, and it's gotten to the point where the reverse osmosis unit I have under my kitchen sink doesn't. I've gone through a couple of filters on that, and the last one only lasted a couple weeks, and I'm not even convinced it's clogged up. I got some part for that, hoping to fix it, but in the meantime I picked up this pressure gauge to see is my water pressure actually low. So I've got this gauge screws into the garden hose here, and this outdoor spigot. Said outdoor spigot is teed off under the kitchen sink inside the house. So what I'm going to do is, we got about 50 pounds here, 50 psi, and I'm going to turn on the faucet by reaching in the window right here, because I have the window open, and we're going to see what happens here with the water pressure. And I see it is dropping a little bit. Get some glare here. Moving the water on. Lift this up so I don't have to bend over. Dropped. I don't have exactly awesome flow out of the kitchen sink faucet. It hasn't been for quite some time. If you flush the toilet, you barely can get any water out of your other sink taps. Showers aren't very vigorous. Takes a long time to fill up the washer to do clothes, a laundry load. So like we're down to just under 40 psi now, and I see it's still dropping. And this doesn't seem like it should drop this much, and I do have a whole house filter, and that hasn't been replaced for a few months, so maybe I should check that. But I was having problems even when new filters there, new filters everywhere, and it still wasn't great. So now we're down to about 35 psi after several minutes here. I guess I don't know what normal should be on this. I've never looked at this before. Yeah, it's still sinking. Gauge is showing about 33 now. I mean, we started at about 50. Okay. Yeah, it's getting still low, still dropping a little bit slowly. And I think we just crossed below 30 psi now. I wonder how low this can go. In the interest of not boring the viewer too much, I'm gonna pause this video here, and I'll come back in a while if the pressure drops significantly more. I've given this, I don't know, maybe another 5 minutes, and we are now just a squeak below 20 psi, so it's dropped quite a lot. I mean, we started at 50 here, and probably over the course of 10 or so minutes, we're down to, well, now it's probably looking like 19 or something here. Yeah. Alright, so watch what happens. I'm going to reach in the window and turn off that kitchen tap, and it will, pressure will rise. Turning the tap off now. You can can see it, pressure slowly coming up. It's about 45 at the moment, which is maybe kind of where it started. I've seen it at 45, I've seen it at 50. Alright, this doesn't seem normal to me, and as I said earlier, the flow and the pressure or whatever used to be a lot better here up in. It got slowly worse over some years I've been in this house, but then after that water main project last year, it was like, you know, September or so when they finished that, maybe a little later, things have just really gotten out of hand. And you know, I can kind of put up with it, but when my reverse osmosis unit kind of doesn't work either, and I don't know if this is the problem with that. I think it might be other problems. Certainly low water pressure for that is a problem as well. Alright, I am going to, probably wouldn't be a bad idea to change out that house filter in the basement. We'll do that and see if it helps any. I'm down in the cellar. I'm going to change this house filter here. I mean, it obviously is dirty looking. I don't think it's the root cause of all my pressure drop. It might be a contributing factor. So I got a new cartridge here and a bucket, catch any drippage, and I also need to wash out the inside of the housing here once I take it out, because I've had to shut the water off while I do this. So I'm going to turn off this valve. There's supposed to be a valve up here as well, but I usually just use this one. So then there's this wrench to unscrew this plastic piece, and I need both hands for this, so we'll pause the video and come back after I've removed things. Got the old filter out. For some reason this thing didn't want to come unscrewed very easily. I'm hoping I didn't damage that O-ring fitting joint there, because it was leaking out of there while I was torquing on things, despite how well I was holding it. So you can see the difference, how crusty looking this filter is, but is it actually blocking flow so much it's causing a pressure drop of, well, look like 30 psi from 50 down to 20 thereabouts. And so I need to they'll put the new one in here. They're easy to put in. They just drop in. The only thing you got to make sure is, and I have the tube of it, there's some food grade grease to smear on that O-ring, and I won't bother with showing that on camera. It's just a big, like, caulking, not a caulking tube, but you know, the sort of tube that glue and sealant comes in, but it's food grade grease, and you have to lubricate that O-ring before assembling it. Otherwise, yeah, I just drop the filter down the hole and screw it back on up here. So I'm going to go do that, and then turn the water back on and hope we don't have any leaks. Alright, there's the new filter in there, and this was the sanitary Petrodrel lubricant. It's a food grade grease for food service use. I think restaurant equipment sometimes has stuff like that in it. So did I dry off this pipe? I thought I dried it off so that if it starts leaking here, we'll know. I'm a little worried about it. Let's turn the valve back on. See, it's filling with water. It'll pressurize the house now. You can hear all the gurgling and the swirgling here going on. And if I go turn on some taps, I'm sure we'll have some air in there. It's just got damp down here, and this water's cold, so pipes are tending to sweat anyway. At least it doesn't seem to be squirting or any gross leaks here. Alright. I don't hear any drippage or anything, so I'll come down and check it later. This rag is all soaking wet now. I'll probably get it clean. or another dry one. I think we're okay, hopefully. All right, let's go and I'll have to clean up this mess, but then I want to check that our water flow and pressure, is it any better with a new filter in it? I'm a little skeptical. I've done this before, and I think it's a lot worse than that. I gave this about another 10 minutes, 5 minutes, something like that. Let's see where we're at. Yeah, we're down at 20 psi again. So putting that new filter in hasn't improved this. I mean, why something like this would happen is the flow is restricted somewhere in between the house and the water main, so that if you start drawing, fluid through it, you get a pressure drop because it's such a small diameter. There's a restriction. Fluid dynamics, fluid, statics, whatever. I'm not a mechanical engineer. I used to know more about this type of topic 30 years ago when I worked as an engineer at a place that we did things with like gas flow and engine things, and had flow meters, pressure gauges. There's ways of measuring, flow by pressure drops, all of that. So, all that said, seems like there is a problem, and I don't think it's anything necessarily once it's got into the house. So that means underground pipes, underground lines, and maybe fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not sure which. My house is an old house on a large lot, which is why I bought it many years ago, because it's private and quiet. But and my yard needs mowing for sure, and I'm doing that today later. I believe the water comes in underneath and it takes a bend out here, and then it runs all the way out to the street up there. And then last year when they did the water main, the shutoff valve was kind of under a pine tree that's out by the street, and rather than replace that, they just added a second valve in series with it closer to the street where the new pipe is. So one wonders if that has anything to do with it. I know this water line was dug in new in '98, because my yard used to be bigger, and the neighboring house over here was part of my yard, and the prior owner sold the lot off separately. When they went to build the house foundation, we discovered that the original water line was running kind of diagonally across what is the current property line, and so that whole thing had to get dug up and replaced. And I was living here at that time, and it was quite a mess in the yard to trench that in, because this is a cold climate, so you got to have your water pipes under the frost line, and generally that means at least 6 feet or more down. So that's a very long line, so one hopes that there isn't something wrong with that, and you can maybe hope it's those valve heads out by the street. Alright, so it's a disappointing result, but now I know that some of my flow problems wasn't just, it's low pressure, but it isn't like low system pressure inherently, because it starts off 45-50 pounds, and then as you start drawing water off of it, it's dropping, signaling to me there's a restriction someplace that's having a pressure drop across it. Alright, so this I'm going to end this video, and we'll figure out what to do. I think I'll end up talking to the city works department about this problem and see what they think as well.